So, hello everybody, my name is Marlee. I am Picmonic's Master Nursing Scholar, and what that means is I help produce the academic content that you see with Picmonic, and I help create some of the crazy characters and stories for you while you're studying. So, going into, first, let's start off with what we're talking about today. This is NCLEX Prep Secrets. And if you haven't used Picmonic or you are unfamiliar with the platform, what we do is we take all the hard to remember information in nursing school and we turn it into crazy characters and stories like you see here so that you can remember the information very quickly for when you need to pull it up on nursing exams and the NCLEX. So you can see here, like we turn warfarin into the war fairy and we turn heparin into the hippie heron. And why we do this is because they're two very similar medications, but they both have a different mechanism of action. They have different side effects. They have different antidotes. So by turning these into different stories and different characters, you are able to distinctly remember the stories so that you can tell the differences in your head when you need to know them. So here's an example. Like I said, warfarin turns into the war fairy. You need to monitor PT and INR levels, and we turn that fact into the PT hourglass and the INR into an international building. And then the antidote is vitamin K and fresh frozen plasma, which is here the Viking King with a fresh frozen plasma screen TV. And then here you can see we do the same thing with heparin, which is said was hippie heron. And like here, the antidote is protamine sulfate. We turn him into the potato man with sulfur matches. So you can see it's very like weird and bizarre. But we do that on purpose because then you'll be able to remember it better. Can everyone still hear me and see me? Because I see it's reconnecting. So I don't know if I lost my internet.
We can hear Marlee. It might be a good idea to try to
Okay.
slides again because it doesn't look like it's appearing full screen, unfortunately.
I know, I don't know why it's not going. Okay, let me try again. Oh, you know what? Sorry, guys. While I'm doing this, why don't you write in the chat where everybody is from, just so we can start to get to know you guys too. I'm in Israel, in Tel Aviv. That is where I'm coming to you from. So hello. Let's try it again. I see I have 3 questions so far. And then Toronto, Brittany, hello. We cover for nursing over 1,000 topics. So we cover you from day 1 all the way to the end of your nursing student career. You can continue to use it after nursing school while you're out on the field. Still really helpful. So we got you covered, everything that you need to study. So what we're covering today are 5 secrets to successful NCLEX prep, and we'll have a Q&A. And if you missed what I said before, I was just saying that you can write whatever questions you want during the webinar, and then I'm going to get to it at the very end. We have Alana in the back. Obviously, you've met her while I was gone. So yeah, we're both going to help you out here. Secret number 1. Okay, so secret number 1 is to start early. And here I say from day 1 is ideal, or 6 to 11 months before the exam. I know day 1 is a little extreme, but basically I just want to get into your head here that you want to set yourself up for success very early on. Because the worst thing here is exams, and especially the NCLEX, give you so much anxiety already, even when you're prepared. So if you go in feeling unprepared, it's just like a double whammy of like really, it's really anxiety provoking. So if you can get as prepared as possible, at least you ease some of that anxiety by having a little bit of confidence going in. So just try to start early, get yourself into that study mindset, into understanding NCLEX style questions. That way you're already trained and you're ready to go in with a successful mindset. So secret number 2 is build a study plan. So this is probably the number one question I get all the time is like, how do I set myself up for studying? What do I need to study? How do I like schedule a structure around it? So we're going to break that down here. And we're going to go into study time foundations. So what is really, really vital and important is organization and then creating a routine around that organization. That is so key. And if you are worried because you're like, well, I'm not an organized person, you can become organized. It's very simple. You just have to create structure and be really, really diligent around it. So that you are efficient and effective in your studying. That's what the whole idea is about, is because you all have lives outside of this, outside of studying, and you want to be able to fit in as much studying as possible while living your life. Like, I'm a big advocate for not letting studying take over your life. You can implement it in a way that you are not a slave to studying. It should not be that way. But in order to do that, you need to create structure and you need to be very habitual about it. So what I like to call it is lifestyle design. So setting up your lifestyle is a big factor to supporting your studying. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is get a schedule around it. So using a planner or a calendar is really, really essential here. I use my phone and I use iCalendar or Google Calendars because, first of all, my phone is small. It's always with me. And that way, and I'm a digital person, and that way I can change things very quickly. I can set alarms for when an event is coming up. I can warn myself like 30 minutes before if I'm particularly busy. A lot of people, I understand like the satisfaction of writing out things. Like, I know that's big for most people. So whatever it is, use what works for you and keep that calendar or that planner very close to you. And that is like your baby. Really make sure that that is something that you are going by a lot, and you're time blocking things out like to the 30-minute mark. That sounds crazy, I know, but trust me, it will help you so much more when it comes to studying and being really efficient with your time. So you have your schedule, your planner, and from there you want to make a week plan. So when I'm doing this, I kind of make like a rough draft. I have the whole month, and then for that particular week, I make a rough draft of the week. So I start filling in like the skeletons. And what I do is I typically start on a Sunday. If Monday works for you, fine, but pick the day that works and then start setting out your week. So I go by like A, B, C priorities. So my A priorities are going to be things like work or school or studying. Like, those are the blocks that you want to fill in. Those are like the non-negotiables. Your B priorities are going to be things like events or appointments or workouts or whatever it is that you need to put in there, that they can be shifted and stuff. They're not as priority as A, but they're priorities. And then C is like the funsy stuff. It's like getting coffee with a friend or like seeing your mom or something. So start mapping those things out, knowing that things are going to change, things are going to come up, but at least you have a nice rough draft of what the week looks like. And then I do something called maintenance mode, because this is what keeps me in a flow, because I don't want my week to fluctuate too much. I don't want to get to the end of the week and all of a sudden have a huge pile of laundry, have no bills paid, like be totally overwhelmed by all of this just kind of maintenance stuff that could easily be fixed by just having dedicated days to do these. And it's not necessarily like you don't need to do this exactly how I do, but just know that you don't want to have your week, like the goal is to have as much ease throughout the week, because you want to just regulate your nervous system. You don't want things coming up and getting anxious about other things being piled up. You want to be in a constant state of just ease. So I do like self-care Sundays. So I know that like on Sundays, I'm going to be doing my laundry. I'm going to be folding clothes. I'm going to be probably like a face mask or something. Those are my days, my dedicated days to do self-care. So I know throughout the week, I don't have to worry about my laundry because I know I'm going to do that on Sunday. Finance Fridays, same kind of thing. Whatever weird thing works for you, just do that and just stick to it. And then we're going to break it down further, and we're going to go into a daily plan. And this is where you want to simplify as much as possible. Remember, we're all about just making things easy. So you want to take your top 3 priorities and make sure these are attainable and set those for the day. So the reason to do this is because a lot of us do this thing where we will write out like the 12 things that we need to do and hope to get it all in done in one day, knowing in the back of your head, like there's no way you're going to get all those things done, but you write it down anyway. And what happens when you do that is you go to bed at night, you didn't accomplish all of those things because that was probably impossible. And you go to bed psychologically with this kind of like failure attitude, like I didn't get the things done today. I said I would, therefore I failed. And it's a mind state that you just don't want to be in when you are studying for something and trying to accomplish something very big. You want to make sure that even the little things in your life are surrounded by, you're making a mind state of success in all aspects of your life. So if you create something that is very attainable, top 3 priorities, like even if it's like 1 difficult thing and 2 easy things, even if it's something like, oh, okay, I need to clean out that cupboard in the back that I've been telling myself I need to clean out, or folding my clothes or whatever, and you've finished those 3 things, at the end of the day, you go to bed and you're like, I succeeded. I got my things done. And that really does psychologically, it does do something to prove to yourself that you can succeed. So remember, everything you do during this time, and life in general, but specifically during this time, you want to put yourself in a state of success. So that's really important. What did I put here? Okay. Our 4 weeks to NCLEX study planner will help you with these steps. You guys, if you RSVP'd, and we'll go over this at the end again, I believe you get a link to this and we'll talk about this at the end, but yes, this is something we've developed and it's very helpful. And yes, you're going to receive that. And basically what we did is we created this planner to help you map out your study schedule. So it's a planner, and then it's also implemented with a study guide, and it's a digital download. So you basically just click the link and you'll see it soon. And that will take you to the specific Picmonic that you need to learn. And we laid out for every single day the specific Picmonics that you need to learn, and basically taking out the hard work for you in guessing that. So that is there. What we also have is a study scheduler on the platform. And basically you just enter the date of your exam with the number of days you'll study per week and the subjects you'll focus on, and then we will create a detailed study plan for you. So it's a really cool feature on there that I definitely recommend using. So moving on, we're still on study time foundations. And I know this maybe feels a little irrelevant to studying, but it really isn't, because if you set up these foundations, the structure around your life to be able to give yourself the ability to study efficiently and effectively, like they're so important, because remember, we're trying to minimize stress, we're trying to keep the nervous system regulated, and you want to walk in with confidence and as little anxiety as possible. So again, you guys all have like families you have to participate in, jobs, maybe several jobs. So it's about being efficient with your time, and time saving is like what we're all about. So one of the things I really recommend is getting rid of what I call the fluff. And so this is just like wasted time throughout your day. So like examples would be like letting your alarm go off a couple times and pressing snooze, and then like already half an hour of your day that you could have used for something else is now gone. So that's fluffy stuff that you want to like cut out. Also, endless scrolling. And I'm not saying don't scroll, because you're a human being. You're going to also need kind of just like blank slate time just to clear your head. So like watching TV or like scrolling or whatever it is, I know you're going to need that. It's just about making it as minimal as possible while you get that break. So put it in your calendar. I know that sounds ridiculous, but put in those spaces of fluff, just so at least if you are scrolling, you don't kind of get stuck into the vortex and then the guilt comes over you of like, oh my God, I can't stop and I should be studying. It's like, you put that time in there to do that, and that's okay. And if you can't handle that, there's always time management software for your phone or your computer. I'm sure you guys have seen it, where you can literally put like a cap on your social media so that at a certain time, let's say like 30 minutes or 45 minutes or whatever it is, it shuts you out or gives you a warning that like you've been on for 45 minutes and then you're like, oh, okay, back to work. So implement that. If you don't want to do that, just be very diligent about like, okay, at 8 o'clock, no screens or whatever cutoff you're giving yourself, which is also good for sleep hygiene anyway, like 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever it is. These are all things that are going to be helpful for you in your study routine. And then also another saving time technique is to multitask. And I don't mean in that way where you're like not paying attention to anything. It almost like habit stacking basically. So like, let's say you need to go for a walk because you need to get your exercise because that is like lifestyle foundations, healthy foundations. And you also haven't seen your mom in a while and you want to spend time with her. So you can be like, hey, mom, you want to go for a walk with me? Or like, let me call you while I'm on my walk. That way you hit two things and you're saving time there. So try to habit stack wherever you can. That's going to save you time. All right, still on study time foundations, and we'll just go over these very quickly. Self-care is really, really important. And these four things are really going to help you: meditation, exercise, nutrition, and sleep. Don't skimp on these things. Meditation, if you haven't gotten into meditation yet, I highly recommend it for especially your exams and the NCLEX. You don't have to put a lot of time into this. You can literally do 5 to 10 minutes a day. If you don't know how to meditate or if the whole thing overwhelms you, you can go on YouTube, you can go on Spotify, you'll get like guided meditations. It's really important. It's going to really help your anxiety around the test. It's going to help you become more mindful and take things slower. A lot of breathing exercises, along with meditation and mindfulness, I really recommend. So, and put that in your calendar, like put it in for the first part of your day, whatever day or whatever time you can squeeze it in, but really set an alarm for it. Make sure you are doing it and build a routine around it. Exercise, try to get at least 30 minutes a day to get the blood flowing. Nutrition, to fuel your body, all this stuff. But again, sleep for sure. Do not skimp on sleep. 7 hours at least, like I would say 8 to 9. But this is like, really important for long-term memory storage. It's also really important that you don't skimp on sleep to like forfeit sleep for studying. I think you guys all know this by now, but these things, like, just be really aware of them. They're going to, like, these are things that can make or break your study routine. Okay, back to the secrets. Secret number 3. Learn actively. So use coursework and exams to prepare. By building on what you're learning in combination with preparing for the NCLEX, you'll feel more confident on testing day. So obviously you're not going to be not all your coursework is going to be on the NCLEX. We know that, but what's important about it is that you're getting into the mind state. This is all about getting into the mind state, all about boosting your confidence. Confidence is so key when you're going into the NCLEX. Like, feeling confident is really key. So use your coursework and exams to prepare. And then integrating spaced repetition is really important. We have it on our platform. It's basically, if you don't know what spaced rep is, it's quizzing yourself and showing you the things that you need to know more often and showing you the things that you need to know that you already know less often. And that way, the more you're like your troubled areas, the more you're seeing them over and over again, eventually they become areas where you feel confident in, and then you'll see them less often. Does that make sense? So it's really important. It really helps the battle the forgetting curve. And it's a really useful technique for studying. Okay, I don't know where there it is. Secret number 4, practice, practice, practice. Okay, now we're talking about practicing. So NCLEX style questions. And I'm talking, I know I haven't really talked much about new gen, and I'm not going to be really covering new gen questions on this. It's about 25% of your exam. And we're going to, I believe, do another webinar just on new gen stuff. But because it's only 25% of your exam, the other portion of the exam, it's still stuff that is in the past NCLEX exams. So this is all still relevant, We're just not talking about the case study questions. So we're still talking about just basic NCLEX style questions from not new gen. So these aren't always about the right answer. They're really focused on the best answer. And that's why they are so difficult, because like sometimes you'll get a lot of times you'll get answer options that are all correct, and it's about choosing the best answer and knowing how to find that. And so you want to flex the muscle early, and you want to start with question banks. We are part of the TrueLearn family, and TrueLearn has a question bank. So I would suggest checking that out, but also just check out whatever question banks you feel are useful to you. I know when I was studying, I used several different question banks. So definitely, it's something that's essential. Get a question bank, start doing the questions, really practice. This is now about training. So it's just like training for a marathon. You really have to get into the routine and understanding what the questions are, how they're asked, what the question's asking you, and all that is practice. So here's a little technique. Like this isn't going to be this is very general, so it's not going to apply to always like all of these questions, but just little things to look out for when answering a question about like that uses the word first. Think systematically. So that's like a prioritization question. So like questions that would say like, what does the nurse do first? That's think systematically there. When answering a best question, consider what is the one thing that the nurse can do in these answer options for the best outcome in leave. Think about that. When you look at the answer options, what's the one thing that the nurse can do with the best outcome in leave? And then when answering a select all that apply question, I can't stress this one enough. Read the question, let it sink in, read the answers, and then read the question again. Like really take like a couple deep breaths in between there, because what happens with select all that apply questions, it's almost like word questions when you were like in elementary school. Like you don't even if it's like an easy question, all of a sudden you just see it's like it's a select all that apply question, and then your heart starts pumping faster, like it's almost the idea of it that's scarier than the actual question. So really read the question, read the answers, and then read the question again and let it sink in. Because there's so many times that like people miss these questions just because they just didn't read the question properly, and that's sad. So make sure you read the question properly. Okay, moving on. Study time organization. So now that we know these things, now that we understand, it's time to organize your study time. And here's where you got to get really honest with yourself and really try to understand your study habits. So first things first is time. Find the time you're most productive. So we all have certain hours of the day that we're most productive, and they're about 3 to 4 hours, and you want to use those hours, and you want to make sure that you're putting the studying in those hours, because that's when you're going to absorb the most information. You're going to be the most focused. And so if you're more productive in the morning, try not to study in the evening, and vice versa. And if you don't know your productive hours, take this week to experiment and find it. And I would try to do it in 4-hour blocks. So like, let's say tomorrow you're like, okay, I'm going to try to wake up and study from 6 to 10. Next day, I'm going to do 12 to 4. Next day, I'm going to do 4 to 8, and collect that data and see when you felt that you absorbed the most information and that you were the most focused. You might be surprised. Like I never thought I was a morning person, never. And it turns out I'm really productive in the morning. So experiment to find it, and then use that time for your studying. Then location. And again, get really honest with yourself. Find the surrounding where you're most productive. So if you know that like having a lot of people around you while you're studying is not going to help you, don't go to a coffee shop to work. Or if you know, like me, that I cannot be at home when I'm working or studying, because I'm probably going to just like start cleaning something or start eating something or just losing my focus entirely. So I need to leave the house. Whatever it is, just be very honest with yourself and know that you need to go to a specific location to make yourself focused. And then from there, we're going to create a whole routine around it. So this is where it becomes habitual, just like brushing your teeth or going to the gym. Like this is now your routine. So you want to train yourself around that. And if you have other people like friends that you're also studying with. It helps so much if you have accountability buddies, just to keep you all responsible and accountable to each other to show up and study. Even if you guys are just sitting next to each other silently studying, that accountability really, really helps productivity. And then we're going to go into practice questions. So this is extremely general and subjective. This is not going to apply to everyone. This is just a very general statement here, depending on how much content you are already feeling good with. So we suggest about 2,800 practice questions, and this is for, like, let's say a 4-week calendar. So about 100 questions per day. You can do more, you can do less, depending on you and how familiar you are with the content. And I don't mean sitting there and doing 100 questions in a row. I definitely don't mean that. You can break it up throughout the day. So let's say, like, in the morning with your coffee, you do 25 questions. And then at lunch, you do another 25. Maybe you have an appointment and you're in the waiting room and you do another couple there. Split it up. And what's really important here, and I can't stress this enough, is really looking at the rationales for these questions and understanding when you got them wrong. Why did you get it wrong? Even when you got it right, look at it and think, why did I get, like, what was going on in my brain when I thought this way? Like, it's really important to start reflecting on why you were thinking the certain way you were in answering these questions, and knowing how to continue on with them. It's also really important to look at the areas that you're struggling with and really start focusing on those. So if you have areas that you are pretty competent in, that's great, but make sure you're focusing a lot of your time on the areas you're struggling with. And you'll only start to notice these with the practice questions mostly. So really focus on that. And then what I also think is really important is making sure that, whether it's every couple of days or at the end of each week, doing a set, usually with these question banks, you'll have like a test mode. It's basically like a fake test. So it would feel exactly as it were on the NCLEX, where you're just going question after question. So make sure that you're completing one of those and not just doing just the question, rationale, question, so because you want to also understand what it feels like to be put under that pressure of taking the test. That makes sense? So another tip is schedule your exam right away and don't push it off. Get it done. This is like a mistake that a lot of people make. I also made it when I was studying, is I started pushing it off, and then I started getting really anxious about pushing it off. So I pushed it off more and more and more. And then not only are you more anxious about it, but the information becomes less and less fresh. So just get it done, like rip off the Band-Aid, go for it. You're going to do great. Okay. Secret number 5. Well, we're already at secret number 5. Okay. So don't draw from past clinical or work experience. This is really important. Previous situations can cloud your judgment. Don't add anything to the question. The NCLEX will always explicitly say what scenario is and leave little to the imagination. So a lot of times people get tripped up with this, is where the NCLEX will give you a scenario and you are trying to make like something that was unique to you or something that happened to you in your clinical experience and put that in there, when really the NCLEX is very textbook. So like, let's say there's a question about like a prioritization question where they'll be asking like, okay, which patient does the nurse see first? The 80-year-old patient who had pressed the call bell, the asthmatic patient, this blah, 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 blah. And you're like going between those two and you're like, ooh, the asthmatic patient. But also I remember when I was in clinical and I had an older patient and she had an infection and then she was septic. You start like putting your own experience in there, and literally nothing was said in that question about anything other than that the patient had pressed the call bell. Like maybe they just want to talk to you, or maybe they're just like asking what time it is or something. So don't put any additional information in there that isn't already stated. And then use ADPI and Maslow's hierarchy of needs wherever you can. And that's going back to the beginning of nursing school. Use ADPI wherever you can. It really is really, really helpful. Again, going to say this again because it's so important. Read the entire question, then reread the entire question, and really ask yourself either what part of the nursing process is this question asking me, or what is this question really asking me? Ask yourself that. Just by narrowing that down, you'll really understand. It'll really give you some sense of calmness once you just start breaking it down. This is our AdPi, how to use AdPi for your nursing exams. Picmonic, you'll see that in the platform. We go through it and break that down for you. Also, Maslow's hierarchy of needs and how to use prioritization and exam questions. All of these are on the platform. They're really great. Test taking anxiety, and I'll just go over this quickly because I know we got to get to the Q&A. This is a big issue for a lot of students. I also had this while I was in nursing school. There's little tips and tricks, but basically you want to reduce the stress as much as possible. So again, really knowing your content, that's going to help you so much. Again, going back to the confidence thing, walking in with confidence, knowing that you feel really good about your knowledge, you feel really good about how much studying you did, and knowing that you got this. Like, that's really going to help with the anxiety while you're in there. They say chewing gum to boost your alertness will help if it's like a strong flavor. These are little tricks. Taking a 5-minute walk before the exam will really help clear your head. No studying the day of exam. I mean, that's dependent on you. Like, I did tiny, not like a massive studying, but I just kind of looked at notes of just like basic stuff. But again, just try to clear your head. And then breathing exercises are really useful. If you go online, you can find a lot of these, but basically what's kind of, I guess, like basics are the exhale here should be longer than the inhale. So like if you're breathing in for 2 counts, you want to exhale for 4. The exhale is going to calm down the nervous system. So anyways, look that up. But breathing exercises while you start feeling really overwhelmed, they're going to bring you back to like the present moment. And it's really, really helpful. Again, implement meditation. That's going to help you out a lot too. And then reduce the stress the day before the exam. So map out the ride, get gas the night before, lay out your clothes and your documentation, and arrive early. Like, really take that part of the experience out so that you don't have to freak out when something goes wrong on the way because you didn't know the way or something. Like those are silly things that you shouldn't have to get overwhelmed about. Okay, so getting back now to thanking you guys for showing up and participating. We are giving you 40% off with the code Marlee40 for the next 24 hours, and then your free digital copy of our nursing workbook and planner. That's what I was talking about in the beginning. If you registered, you're going to receive an email with the link to download. And then, yeah. So let's get to questions. Let me exit out of this so I can, hang on. Oh, there's me again. Okay.
We do have some questions from our guests, if you don't mind, Marlee. So
yes.
Dine, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, who's asking if we can add PTCA. And our content team loves to hear what topics you like to see in the future, so we'd be happy to pass that along to them. And you can also write to us at feedback@picmonic.com to let us know what else you'd like to see added.
Yeah, we love that. We love, like, we always want to be just adding stuff that you guys need, and like, we're here for you. Like, I really hope you know that is like our whole mission is helping you guys, and we really want you to succeed. So help us help you,
Absolutely. And we have another guest who's asking, what would you recommend to someone who has been out of school for a couple of years and is finally getting ready to study for the NCLEX?
Cool. The question banks are going to help you so much. I would just suggest like going over the question banks a lot, getting some review books. What was the one I used a lot was the one, what is the purple one? God, I'm drawing a blank, sorry. anyways, there's a lot of really great review books out there. I would also, I don't know if I mentioned this, but do an assessment exam to see where you're already at, like just as a baseline, and see what you need to work out. Because like I said before, you really need to understand where your areas of weakness are and the areas that you feel pretty good in, and that you're going to figure that out with an assessment exam. So take one of those, and then just the review books are really helpful, and the practice questions definitely, and Picmonic, of course. Yeah, go into Picmonic, and like literally our library, our content library, there's so many things in there. And I mean, the thing about Picmonic is it's fun. Like you don't really feel like you're studying. It doesn't feel exhausting like reading a book does. You just like press play and continue to watch videos, and it's nice. So anything you can do that doesn't feel exhausting and feel like this burden, I would suggest, because you don't want this to take over your life. It doesn't have to.
We also have Jasmine asking, how many questions should we study before testing? And did you say to only do 100 practice questions a day and 1 practice test at the end of each week?
So this is like really subjective. It depends on how much you already feel you know and how confident you are. We gave like a general recommendation to do, if you're taking a month to study, let's say, to do in that month about 2,800 questions. Again, that's really, really general. So, and that comes out to about 100 questions a day. But that's, again, if you feel like you need more, do more. If you don't feel like you need that much, you can do less. But what's important is really reading the rationales. So really not speeding through these questions, like taking the time to actually look at the questions and look at the rationales, figuring out why you got something right and why you got something wrong, and then looking at the areas that you are weaker in and focusing on those. The practice questions, I said, like the practice tests, it again depends on you. I would always do it every couple of days. I know some people that do it at the end of each week. It's important. The basic thing I want to just emphasize there is it's important to put yourself in a fake testing scenario so that you know how your body can get used to feeling what it's like to be in that scenario. So do it as often as you want, because I think you get multiple times to do those like fake tests. I think there was one like real fake test, and then I think you can do like a just like kind of, what is it called? It's like a test mode or something. So use that.
Great. We also do have a Janine asking if we can show the secret number 3 slide again, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes. Go back there. This one, what is secret number 3, sorry. What is Picmonic? And there it is, learn actively. So yeah, this one was just going over how to use your exams and your coursework to like really don't be passive in your studying. Make sure that you're using like spaced repetition, just to feel confident.
Hannah also asks, are you going to have a webinar where you have NCLEX questions that we can review and find how you can break them down?
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that eventually. I think we're planning right now our webinars going forward. So yeah, a suggestion like that would be something we'll take into account.
Great. Alejandra also asks, where can we find question banks to study?
So there's several different companies, again, like TrueLearn, which we're part of the TrueLearn family. You can use TrueLearn. Kaplan, I know, has, ATI has, UWorld has. There's a lot of different companies that have them, and you can try different ones out for yourself. You can see what your friends are using, if people recommend certain ones. It all kind of depends on which ones you feel help you. I used a couple different ones, so they're all a little different, but they're still all using NCLEX style questions.
Awesome. We have Susie Mitchell asking, is taking time off from work for 3 months and only studying for the NCLEX, is that a good choice? She feels that it's for the NCLEX while working.
I totally get it. It's stressful. If you plan properly and create a routine and like an organization around studying, you will become really efficient and effective. So I think the question was taking 3 months too much or enough. I don't know. I didn't really hear that part. But in that time that you take off work, really make sure that you're making that time useful by being really structured with your study time and creating a routine.
Awesome. We have Chi asking, what is the best approach or strategies to answering all that apply questions?
So we'll do that on that webinar because there's a whole strategy around that. And we can do that on the webinar. We were talking about like how to break down questions. I really want to stress, I know I've said this a million times, I'm a broken record, but when it comes to select all that apply, so many people miss these questions just because they get really stressed out and they don't read the question properly and they don't know what the question's asking them. So I can't stress enough to really like take your time reading these, read it again, read the answer options, read it again and be like, okay, what is the question asking me? Because select all that apply can be really tricky. And then there's different techniques and strategies on how to answer them, but like that's like baseline. Make sure you really know what the question's asking you.
All right, we have Sarah asking how she can use the 40% off code. And when you go to checkout, there should be a field where you can enter that code. And also if you RSVP to this, then you'll be receiving an email shortly that will let you apply the code at checkout as well.
Yay.
Alejandra asks, are there any resources you highly recommend like Archer, UWorld, or ATI?
I think they're all really great. It depends on what you like. TrueLearn I recommend. I really liked UWorld. It depends on what you like. Yeah, and I really liked I wish I could, why can't I remember the review book that I'm thinking of? We reference it on like in our book section, but basically it's a NCLEX review book that I really loved. God, what is it called? Anyways, yeah, all of them are really great. I don't think one is necessarily better than the other. Some people have really strong opinions on those, but I think they're all really great and they're all really helpful. Just like I would minimize the amount of resources that you use, like try to stick to like 3 maybe, because then you're going to get overwhelmed with resources. So just like stick to 3 to 4 and you'll be good.
That sounds good. All right. I think that we may have gone a little bit over time at this point. So I'm sorry if we didn't address all of the questions, but we have them and hopefully we can get back to you afterwards. I believe if you RSVP, we have your email.
Yeah.
Appreciate everybody joining. Sorry again for the
sorry for the technical difficulties, you guys, but thanks for like sticking with me. And this was fun. And thank you so much for coming. And I hope you guys all do great. I'm not worried about any of them.
Sounds good. Thanks again, Marlee.
Bye.